trampoline park. There's a bunch of 16-year-olds enforcing the rules. This would be perfect for our kids. So I was like, that's a win. There's nothing in our community. That's another win.
You don't need fingerprint cards to work there.
Yes, that helps. Yeah.
As a mom who has birthday parties, like the worst thing is the cleanup afterwards.
We were the only trampoline park to open in the entire United States in 2020. And I opened the doors with 9 staff ready to go, and like 4 people walked in the door. And I was like, what in the heck?
This is the Unleash Your Purpose podcast.
Well, hey, welcome back to another riveting episode of Unleash Your Purpose with your host, Sara Senters. I have a guest. She thinks she's the co-host, but we can let her be the co-host today. Mm-hmm, it's my beautiful glam wife. Lashes done.
Momager.
Lashes on. Sprinter mom, lashes on. Mm-hmm. Has arrived. How has your podcast been going?
Actually, the other day, you were listening to one of my podcasts, and then I'm pretty sure you said there's no substance. And I was like, I would have never
said, no, there is lots of substance. It's just like I've heard these stories for 17 years, and now the whole world gets to experience it. And, like the husband, I'm not going to lie, there was this thing about a few days ago where you started telling a story, and our house is very big and long, and you were telling a story in the kitchen, a long story, and I left. I went all the way to our room, went to the bathroom for not more than a minute or two, and I came back and you were still on the story, and I just went, mm-hmm.
Was I talking to someone else or you?
Just me.
Oh my gosh, I was still talking? My stories are long.
So long.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Yes. So we are here talking about the 9th time I hired my wife for another business venture. Mm-hmm. We are talking about how we opened up a trampoline park and as one of our businesses. So we wanted to share how we started it, why we started it, and ultimately why we ended up selling our park after 3 years.
Yes.
So you want to start how we started it?
And I would say that you always know when Ryan's looking into something because he starts like dropping little hints here and there.
I got to sell the idea to you.
Like when he was talking about the gym, he was like, oh, this is so great. I'm watching this. Did you see Mark Wahlberg? He'll start dropping hints when he's already been thinking about it, probably for a few months. Mm-hmm. And we actually took our son Maddox to a birthday party at a Sky Zone. Actually, it was a different trampoline park.
Yeah. So the way we went into it is we lived in an area of town where there wasn't necessarily any family entertainment. So we had to drive 30 minutes just to get to any place to have a decent birthday party for kids.
Yeah,
so
we would drive to Avondale from Levine.
So we drove 30, 40 minutes to go to one of these parties, and we walk into this trampoline park, and there are kids everywhere. And I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the sign. I'm like, $17 for an hour and a half plus socks? Man, this is expensive. And these kids, there's everywhere. Everywhere you look, there are like hundreds of kids jumping around. And I'm like, well, I'll do it too. And I ended up being drenched in sweat, ended up having a blast. But the whole time, as a business person, I'm always like doing the math in my head of how much it costs or how much money they're making for this 1 hour that I'm here. And how much I think, okay, the rent of this 20,000 square foot facility is probably $17,000 plus utilities, and got 8 staff here, and I'm doing the math. I mean, Sarah's just enjoying herself icy, and I'm doing the math of how much this costs to run this place.
Yeah, but then you're the person who calls the owners
and
meets them in person, or we'll be out of town in California, and you're like, hey, there's this trampoline park. Let's go take a tour and talk to the owners. You take it too far all the time.
And too far, and then we end up building our own. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually that's a good reminder. I forgot. So through that process, this is awesome. And we had Ohana at the time. We had a couple homes, and I was looking for a place that I could employ my kids that are in foster care in a group home. Say, what's a job I can train them in that could be a good job and give them opportunity that I could train up even the managers so they could support the kids. And I was like, oh, trampoline park. There was a bunch of 16-year-olds enforcing the rules. This would be perfect for our kids. So I was like, that's a win. There's nothing in our community. That's another win.
We don't need fingerprint cards to work there.
Yes, that helps. Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Your card is fine.
I know, but I mean, there's a lot of rules that come from working in social services.
Yeah.
And so we were like, what kind of job could be a trade?
And
or
no,
something that's
no
fun?
government contracts, just
Yeah.
whip some sales and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we ended up getting connected with a local trampoline park in town. I somehow got the phone number of the owners of them. We ended up going, so we got slid into their DMs and we went over to their house in Chandler.
And let me tell you, I mean, I love our house, but I would move into their house
Yes,
in a heartbeat. And I was like, oh, is this what trampoline parks do? Bring it on.
I know. That sold us quick. They had like 6 in town, and we had a location that I drove past 100 times and knew that this was going to be the spot. I even shared it with that couple who owned all these parks, and they were all about it and pretty excited for the opportunity. But then as time went on, I was like, I think they wanted like 50% of the equity of this business. And I was like, that's too much. And they wanted to have all control. And for me,
they also had never franchised before.
Yes.
They did it on their own.
And I don't like being controlled. I'm not good at not being in charge. I'm not good at like 50-50 or we were going to be minority owner. That freaked me out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that wasn't going to work. But then we ended up looking at other franchises, or we got like Urban Air, we looked at Jump Street, but then ended up falling in love with Sky Zone, the brand. And we
had Maddox's birthday party at one of them.
Yes. I started connecting with the franchise, getting to know it, went on a discovery day. That's kind of a first step for a trampoline or any type of franchise. Typically do a discovery day where you go out, look at the brand, get the ins and outs of marketing, get the ins and outs of how operations work, meet with a bunch of people and say, okay, is this a good fit for our life? So I took a friend of mine out to Chicago, really enjoyed it, then said, Sarah, we gotta make this happen. It's only gonna cost a couple $1 million.
You think you went to Chicago? You went to New Orleans.
Oh yeah, that was even better. That was another time.
Oh my gosh.
Sarah
really
gets very
irritated.
salty. Yeah,
I get
Sarah
so irritated when I miss out on things that I've never been to before. And even if he goes for a night and doesn't even stay the night, I'm like irritated if I haven't experienced
This is a marriage 17 years in that if we I travel a good amount for work, to help provide for our family and our life and all our children that you have and the lashes that you love. So I have to provide for our family, and it involves some travel. And I like to go places and do the things. And man, if New Orleans, I was like downtown at the what is it, Bourbon Street or something?
Don't even say the words. It's fine. Regardless, you went out, did your discovery.
Yes.
Proceed.
And we knew that so then we knew we wanted to do a franchise with Sky Zone. This was in like 2018 at the time. And we ended up not even getting to open till 2020. It took 2 years of typically what I have learned is that when you have an idea to actual day opening, it usually takes about a year. You can maybe go quicker, but there are so much due diligence process, finding the real estate, and especially when this real estate for a trampoline park is 24,000 square feet. This is significant cost, a lot of negotiations. And then when we finally got the space, we had to work with the city for almost 8 months to let them approve the type of use that we wanted to. And I thought for a while it wasn't ever going to happen. We had the lease in motion. We had that. But the building that we had was actually an old Mervyn's. So it was like a 100,000 square foot building that ended up getting chopped up into smaller units. And the wall, they wanted a firewall in between each of the uses, and the city wasn't approving it. And then it was in the middle of COVID, so there was nothing happening. And I finally found one of our neighbors actually worked for the city. And
that's right.
I knocked on their door.
On the door.
Yeah, it was 8 months in. I was like, hey. And so he ended up, I befriended him and ended up getting things in motion. And our daughter, I thought it was going to fall through. I took her to the parking lot and said, hey, baby, do you see that little sign of Sky Zone? I'm hoping and praying we get to open it this year. And she said one of her first times ever praying out loud, and she prayed for that. And literally, it was probably a month later that we got approval from the city.
Yeah.
I was like, baby,
You're like, it was Brooklyn's prayer.
Oh, the power of a 10-year-old's prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So we opened it in the middle of COVID. We were the only trampoline park to open in the entire United States in 2020. And because we like to do, we always like to do everything challenging. And I was not a big mask
I know,
person.
talk about terrible timing.
Yes.
Oh, and we all wore Skies On masks. Skies On made masks to like match the socks. And you would like jump and get sweaty and be like, well, it was awful.
Yes. And it was a cool thing. Like I worked on getting a small business loan and I ended up having to get a couple of small investors to kind of help be a part of that to make sure there was enough cash, because this was the biggest business and investment that we've ever done. Like it ended up being $2.5 million to get this thing up and going. And I estimated 1.7. So it always takes longer and costs more money. And it was very, very challenging. But it was what was so rewarding, at least for me, was the opportunity for us to build out like this vision, what we had for the park.
Yeah.
And we got to pick out all the different attractions that we really enjoyed. We had our kids even pick out their own attraction that they wanted. And we even put on the wall of the building a thing that we always pray over our kids. We always tell our kids when they go to bed, it says, "You are strong, you are brave, you are kind." So we made that sign in the front lobby. So if you ever see it, go there. It says, "You are strong, you are brave, you are kind, you are Sky Zone."
Yeah.
Levine.
Yeah, we kind of merged it
Yeah.
into a Sky Zone saying, but also
A Senters way.
A Senters way.
So what was your favorite experience at
I
owning
think
it?
my favorite part was one, knowing about it before it came around, which was kind of not great because of course I was like in the whole mommy groups and was like, "Ooh, it's coming." And then it was like, "Hey, 2.5 years later, by the way."
The anticipation was very
I have like so much respect for people that take on like those huge
business projects,
businesses or corporations or the things that are like from the ground up and it just takes forever. But I would say my favorite part was
you being a birthday party
opening
host?
up. No, not being a birthday party host, although that's okay. As a mom who has birthday parties, like the worst thing is the cleanup afterwards. And I would say that hosting it at a trampoline park or somewhere else and letting a party host do it is fabulous. So that was one of my favorite things, that we brought that into the Levine community, not just for our sake, for all the freaking kids that we have, but for everyone around that could book parties and then not have a terrible mess in their house. But I just loved the chance to take the kids there, especially during COVID too, because even though it was hard to open, all of the kids were at home learning and they had no way of getting out and having physical activity. And so sports, everything was closed. And so going to Sky Zone and being able to play was just so rewarding, and being able to zone out as a parent and use the free Wi-Fi was fabulous.
Yeah. And I remember there are probably two of my favorite stories. A few. Was one, we had one of our kids at Ohana. She became one of our all-star party hosts. And she was 17, 18 years old at the time. Her name was Saru. And still talk to her to this day. And she would light up when she would host a birthday party. And someone that she would say that I haven't had an opportunity maybe to have enough parties on my own life, but to be watching her have such excitement to give that gift to these kids. And she'd get on the microphone and sing happy birthday to them in a 24,000 square foot facility with hundreds of people, and everyone cheer. Was so beautiful. She even was there for the grand opening and the ribbon cutting, and what an honor that was. And another thing was hosting parties for our kids. It's like, I love taking our business and being able to create special moments for our kids. Like we shut down the park sometimes to our small group or our kids' school or their youth group, and be
or their
able to
sports teams having celebration.
Yeah, and just having cool moments like that was something so rewarding.
Yeah.
And then we ended up using the building for all our staff meetings because it was such big space. That was so good. and getting to know all the staff and the team and watching these young staff become great people. We had some great leaders a part of that for a long time.
Yeah.
What would you say were some of the biggest? I mean, you were involved in the beginning.
Yes.
And then the biggest challenges that you faced doing it?
I don't think I was a part of the challenges because I didn't really have to do any of the hard work of starting it. I like to do the decorating or the fun stuff.
And you're very good at that.
I actually don't like to know any details that could make me nervous.
That's true.
So finances,
we have
or
learned
legal.
that we used to be in the business together, and you used to love to know all the details of the business and the money. And now you really don't want to be involved. Like you have enough in your brain and enough.
Yeah, and enough kids to keep track of. And actually, I do remember almost one of our first weeks open.
Mm-hmm.
I specifically recall a kid falling on the wipeout and his bone being like, and after seeing that and
he signed a waiver, there was no, we're not at fault. We had it.
However,
proper supervision.
Knowing the legal stuff that comes with that and the medical and all that, I was like, holy cow, I don't want to know anything anymore. So that's.
Yeah, I think there has been probably a shift in, as we have had opportunities to talk to a lot of other business owners who are married, who do ministry together or do business together. You have to honestly learn your roles and what tolerance you have for certain things.
Yeah.
So for Sarah, she loves the relational side. She loves to be able to decorate and create those moments in that cultural piece. But the business side for her gives a lot of anxiety.
A lot of anxiety.
Like anything financially,
I want to attend the events. I want to plan.
You don't
want to
know if someone's fired.
Nope.
You don't even want to know if someone's in trouble.
Nope.
And there's always someone in trouble.
I know.
Yeah. Well, there's always, when you get that many employees, there's always going to be some kind of.
When I see employees on their cell phone, I won't even call it out, even though it's not okay.
She'll text me, hey, there's an employee over there doing that.
I'm anti-conflict,
Yes, you are.
All things.
But I think for me, one of my biggest learnings through this experience is that the first day we opened, we just posted it on social media. Hey, we're open. And it reached like 12 people. And I opened the doors with 9 staff ready to go. And like 4 people walked in the door. And I was like, what in the heck? I'm like, I'm ready to ring this register. This thing cost $2.5 million. And hardly anyone showed up. And I started to panic. And I was like, oh, shoot. So immediately I got on social media, started and figuring out the marketing side of this, which was a new skill that I really had to learn and develop. Because the way trampoline parks, the way you market this, it's all about guest count, getting enough guests into the park. And for us, the average park maybe has 6,000 guests a month. When we first opened, we had 100, but then we ended up getting up to 7,000 guests a month. So, and the average guest was like $22 and per visit, which was great. And then we would move from that saying, okay, can we get this guest to come more than once a year? The average guest would come once to twice a year to a trampoline park. Now, can we get them like 4 times a year? And what does that look like? So there's a lot of not just psychology, but intentionality that you build with programs and with memberships and retaining your members through this experience. And so for me, I'm a psychologist and this is a new skill. So it took a lot of learning of like, wow, all right, this is a significant feat. And the nut to crack on this was hundreds of thousands, well over 6 digits of how much it costs a month to run. So that means you got to get people in the park and you got to make sure it's a good experience. Mm-hmm. So that was a definite learning. It probably took us 6 months to be able to really get cooking with gas to get the right people in the door. And that was fun, but then also a challenge, especially as Sky Zone grew and then our main life of
Of Ohana.
Ohana was growing exponentially, and then our family too. So how do you come to a place where you have multiple things growing and you can only do so many things really well?
Mhm.
And I felt like I was just doing none of it really that well. Do you ever notice that?
I do notice that you do a really good job of managing your day and saying from this hour to this hour, I'm like all in at work. And then when you come home, you're a present dad, a present husband at home. However, adding in additional businesses has been harder on your home life, or people saying, well, I don't have enough of Ryan's attention. I haven't met with Ryan enough this month, or the check-in. So I think it's just more added to your plate and you can't do it all.
Yeah, I think in reality, my plate should be about a normal dinner plate, but I was trying to make it like a buffet style plate.
Yeah.
And when it comes to business, it's fine to have multiple businesses. Within Ohana, we have multiple companies within one entity. However, multiple business verticals is the biggest challenge, at least for me, was the mental shift from social services, working with the government, providing care for kids, which is my everyday life and everything I do, then going, okay, how do we promote birthday parties, and how do we get memberships here, and what kind of cool events do we do with at night with the teenagers? Okay, then go over to here to, all right, gyms, how do we make sure people lose weight and do this, and then go back and forth. Hey, we have a kid that's struggling in this. It's like just a hard mental shift over and over again, and you can't do that many things. You can't do that many things well, and it ends up becoming so exhausting. Versus if I would have built multiple businesses that just stack on top of each other, that complement each other, that are all like, for us, Ohana, now you have this type of service and this type of service delivery that's slightly different, but doesn't force your brain to have to just change the type of marketing, change the type of guests. Like
huge direction shift.
Yeah. Okay, here, get 7,000 people in the park this month. In the gyms, here, you need to get someone that's around $180 a month to come work out at a gym. That's a different type of guest that you need to foster the lead, get the sale through. That's different versus getting a kid's birthday party there.
It's also a different type of marketing.
Totally different.
Yeah.
And sales. And then, okay, now this one's developing relationship with city officials and state officials and insurance companies. It's like, that's the stupid, honestly, for me, what is the stupidity of what I let our life get to, because I couldn't do everything well, and everything was just okay. And so what it affected is profitability of the business. Didn't get my full attention. My staff, I had an amazing team, but they were stretched. Like some of our greatest people, like, hey, can you go manage Sky Zone and this other business and this business and oversee all the general managers? Well, that's a lot.
But they
for one
would.
person.
They would do it.
They did it.
But
it was challenging for sure. So I think for us, that was kind of a place, as we were kind of thinking through this, I had a big epiphany in my life about December this year or November.
Well, I think it was before then, because when you want to start something, you start thinking about it months ahead. And when you want to stop something, you start thinking about it months ahead. So I think it was fall sometime.
So we had this trampoline park for 3 years. Profitable. It could be making more money if it had our more attention. But then I noticed that there was God's grace and God's blessing on Ohana, and it was growing and growing and growing. And for me, I only got so much of me to give, and I got this huge family and huge life, and something had to give. And if I got this word from a mentor friend of mine. He says, Ryan, you're super skilled, but like your diversification is going to kill you. And he says, you have to narrow your focus to broaden your impact. Narrow your focus, because then from that, you'll broaden your impact. And for me, it was a realization that I have to, like, it's like the pruning back of a rose bush. If I want the roses to grow and be beautiful, I got to cut back some of the branches or the sucker branches that are taking all my energy and taking all my staff's energy and my maintenance department's energy and everything that's causing the work. I need to cut it back so that it can grow and be something beautiful. Because what God wants is the fullness and excellence and a business that is thriving and impacting the world. And maybe this part of the business isn't for me right now.
Yeah.
So for me, narrowing my focus was saying, making the hard choice, the hard right choice, saying, all right, I have to sell this business. So about 4 or 5 months ago, I started talking to different groups about selling. And we found a group that ends up has a number of parks here in town. We had talked to all of our leadership at Sky Zone about it, and they were very understanding and actually worked through this entire process. And just this week, so when this comes out, it'll be a week later, we are officially no longer the owners of a trampoline park.
Sky's on Levine.
Is no more part of the Senters. Yeah.
How, one thing I was going to ask is, like you said, I was talking to people, like, how do you even know where to go to say, I want to sell this huge business?
Sure.
Where do you find investors? Where do you find, like, I would imagine there's so many loops to go through, just as much as there were when you were opening. How do you get in the right room or find the right people that want to take over this?
I think that's the scrappy
thing?
part of just like knowing the right people, knowing how to hustle. This is for me. I reached out to the franchise. There were other groups that owned other parks that were interested. We posted on some websites and did that, and I got a bunch of inquiries from there. So we had probably like 5, 6, 7 different groups that were all interested in it. But it's all just working through the details. You have some looky-loos, some people that are legit. Some people want to have seller finance, meaning like, hey, I'll give you 20 grand and then you finance it for the next 10 years. No, I'm not. No, give me the money. I mean, and then I need to move on. Or like,
because your mind can't be there anymore.
No,
you have to,
and I can't guarantee
totally
that you're gonna pay back this loan that you owe me. So for me, it just wasn't a good fit. And yeah, it's a weird feeling that we had this company that we love in our community that we had our kids' birthday parties in for 4 or 5 times. And it's like, no more, you know, it's like an end of a chapter. You said I should change jobs or something.
When Ryan was in ministry, every 3 years, he either went to a new position at the church or a new church. And people say
or
that's
a new job.
Or a new job. People kind of say that's typical of like youth pastors or people in ministry. It's like you really conquered that part of that ministry, and then you're like, okay, let's go. And it was like, sure enough, every 3 years. And it was always something better for our family or right for our season. And I think when I looked at it, I actually said, oh, look, this was 2 years ago. I can't do math. It was 3. And you said, actually, it was 3. And I was like, oh, that makes even more sense. We put our 3-year mark on it. You did what you could. It's not the right season right now. And hopefully Levine is better because of Sky Zone being there, and that the new owners will take it to places you couldn't.
Exactly. Yeah. So our season's up. We did a great thing. We made money.
Our kids are disappointed.
Our kids are disappointed. That was the hardest thing. I had to sit the kids around. Hey, we don't have Sky Zone anymore.
Oh, I have like 1,000 pairs of Sky Zone socks.
How much did we make, Dad? Well, I'm telling kids, you made nothing. Yeah. You're broke. You don't got nothing.
I know.
And that's none of your business. Oh my goodness. There's kids. So, and I don't know. We'll see what the next venture is. I can tell you it won't be something that's not complementary to Ohana deeply. There will be other businesses and other like verticals, but it's not going to be some like I have to get 7,000 people to show up to pay $20 a month, and that's not going to happen.
No.
And if I do, you just play this video back to me, please.
I will. The only other thing I would let you do that has nothing to do with Ohana is what's it called? Those self-storage places.
Oh yeah, those things are a cash cow.
Oh, bring on the cash cows.
Yeah, I'd love some passive income.
You need
like
some
that.
Storage units? Bring it on.
Yes.
I don't want to do any work. I don't want to be a party planner.
And now the funniest thing is about this, guys, I was thinking about, we were the first one in for this family entertainment area in this area of town. And then 2 years later, 2 more competitors,
Parks came Mm-hmm.
That was also one of the reasons I sold. I was like, I see the writing on the wall for that. And then someone else across the way opened up another park. And there's no way this community and this density of population can handle that much park. So we're all splitting this 7,000 guest count. So you're going to continue to see a decline in sales. And, but it's not my problem anymore.
No, it's not.
It's not my problem. And but thank you, babe, for going on this ride with me.
You know, I don't always have a choice, but
Oh my goodness.
I'm just kidding.
No, you do.
No, it was fun and it was a great season. And
you have no more personal guarantees on loans.
oh, thank God.
And no more ever again, right? That's for a different day. Don't get a small business loan and tie up your personal real estate. That is a nightmare, and you can never refi. And another learning for another day.
Yep.
But thanks for coming on to your
Thanks for having me in my bedroom.
You are very welcome. I'll see you in there later. But until next week. May you prosper. How am I supposed to end this? I have something else on my mind. Oh. Until next week, may you unleash your purpose so you can profit in business, faith, and life. I'll see you later. Let's go.
Thanks for joining us for the Unleash Your Purpose podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. We'll see you next week.